take
This
up two
conference will
chapters.
now be recorded.
We shall take up two chapters, first and second chapters. One is on high frequency analysis and second one is on multi-stage amplifiers. This is not a serious class. We try to recollect what are the topics, various topics under each chapter. Do you understand? Fine. Sure. Okay. Essentially, this particular subject deals with amplifier analysis. We study about various types of amplifiers. Basically, the amplifiers are classified in many ways. Some of the classifications are presented here. And when we started learning about amplifiers, we call it common emitter amplifier. This is based on configuration: common emitter amplifier, common base amplifier, common collector amplifier. And then there is a classification based on output power level: Class A amplifier, Class B amplifier. Essentially, Class B, Class C, or Class AB amplifiers are known as power amplifiers. And of course, based on frequencies, audio frequency amplifiers, radio frequency amplifiers, and UHF, VHF amplifiers, which are used in TVs, TV transmission and TV receptions. Radio frequency amplifiers, you are familiar with radio frequency amplifiers, though you have not seen them directly, but they are presented in radio, FM, everywhere. So, okay, and your cell phones, etc., etc. Fine. Now, the load can be connected to amplifier. It can be any load. Load can be connected to amplifier in many ways, which is known as coupling. So basically, there are varieties of coupling. We are familiar with RC coupling everywhere. When we have done analysis, we have used RC coupling everywhere. Apart from RC coupling, we have inductive coupling, transformer coupling, as well as DC coupling. And now, based on output, of course, this is already done. We call amplifiers as voltage amplifiers and power amplifiers. And based on number of stages, single stage amplifiers, multi-stage amplifiers. There are single stage amplifiers and multi-stage amplifiers. Fine. Of course, you can have other types of classifications also based on feedback. You can have positive feedback as well as
Tagore sir. Hello, Tagore sir.
Mr. Tagore, Dr. Tagore, we are unable to hear you. Dr. Tagore?
Tagore sir. Tagore sir, voice cuttings.
Dr. Tagore, we can't hear you. We can't hear you, Dr. Tagore.
Tagore sir. Tagore sir, మీ వాయిస్ రావట్లేదు సార్. Tagore sir, voice is not coming, sir.
Yeah, I think he is joining again, probably. Okay.
Okay. Students, please log in with your roll numbers immediately.
Okay, it is okay for this session. I think from the next session onwards, probably okay, we can ask them to log in. All the students are logging in with their names. Mostly they have logged in with their numbers, right? Okay.
Okay, sir.
No problem. Yeah. But students, please make sure that you are logging with your register numbers. Okay, from the next session onwards, at least.
Tagore sir, voice is not coming, sir.
ఒక్కసారి ఫోన్ చేయండి, మండే ఫోన్ చేయమ్మా ఒకసారి ఠాగూర్కి.
ఓకే సార్.
Srinivas, hello.
సార్. హలో సార్.
వినిపిస్తుందా?
ఇప్పుడు వినిపిస్తుంది సార్. ఓకే సార్. సార్ స్లైడ్ షేర్.
This
conference will now be
Sorry
recorded.
for disturbance. Actually, my system is hanged badly. I'm sorry once again. Okay, fine. And let's look at the important topics in first chapter, high frequency analysis. And these are
Sir,
the
Thakur sir.
probable questions.
ఠాగూర్ సార్ స్లైడ్ షేర్ చేయండి సార్. స్లైడ్స్ రావట్లేదు సార్. స్లైడ్స్ రావట్లేదు సార్.
Wait.
ఓకే సార్.
This conference will now be recorded.
Dr. Tagore, can you hear us?
Yes.
You see, there is a chat window here. Mr. Monday, you are not able to hear us. You can please look into the chat window where the other organizers or the students will post their, if you have any issues, okay? Please go.
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Oh, fine.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thakur.
And you need to
full screen F5. Yeah, thank you, Thakur.
Fine. Sometimes you may be asked to explain the temperature dependence, or what is the dependence of hybrid pi parameters on collector current as well as VC. So this is one more topic, and then you may be asked to analyze transistor high frequencies by keeping load short circuited. In the process, you need to give the importance of these two important parameters corresponding to any transistors, F beta and Ft. Ft is popularly known as unity gain bandwidth product. Sometimes you may find, not sometimes, it may be given in specification sheet. And then you have to extend this analysis by keeping resistive load. You need to do same thing. This analysis is known as analysis of AI current gain with resistive load. And finally, we need to extend this to JFET for both CS and common source and common drain configurations. So these are the important questions. Now let us look at the hybrid pi model. We have already seen in the first semester course H parameter model, which is used for low frequency analysis, that cannot be used for high frequency. This model is specially developed for high frequency by Geckeletto. This is known as Geckeletto model. And the advantage of this model is we can extend this to low frequencies also by removing capacitance, by inserting some changes. We can extend this to low frequency model. That's why this becomes very popular model. And moreover, this is defined for common emitter, and we can also use it for common collector as well as common base. Okay, fine. Now at high frequencies, we will have inter-electrode capacitance effect. This effect is not predominant at low frequencies and mid frequencies, but these two capacitances play vital role at high frequencies. Thus, gain of the amplifier start reducing due to these capacitances. Coming back to this model, there are various resistors as well as two capacitors, and there is a current source. Now this resistor RBB prime is known as base spreading resistance. This is the resistance of base region after depletion region, without depletion region. Usually this will be less. It comes in between 10 ohms to 100 ohms, maximum 100 ohms. Most of the times in analysis, for all practical purposes, we try to short circuit this resistance. Okay, sometimes we keep it, but this resistance is appearing in low frequency. It does not appear in low frequency model. It appears only in high frequency model. Then input terminals are base and emitter terminals. There is a resistance appearing between these two terminals. Once we forward bias this, that resistance is called as RB prime E. Sometimes it is also known as RE, or it is also known as input resistance. Usually its values will be, for most of the transistors in common emitter mode, this will be in between 800 ohms to 1500 ohms. Okay, for this presentation, the typical value is mentioned as 1 kilo ohm. Then we have this resistor RB prime. So this is a feedback resistor. This accounts for base width modulation. Because you know what is base width modulation. Because of base width modulation, when we increase reverse voltage on collector junction, there is a change in input current. This resistor accounts for this. Usually this will be very high, from 1 mega ohm to hundreds of mega ohms. Typical value we have mentioned 3 mega ohms. Then there is one more resistor, RCE. It is the resistance between collector and emitter. Okay, fine. Output. So since this is the resistance between output terminals, this is also known as output resistance of the transistor. Typical value will be from a few tens of kilo ohms to hundreds of kilo ohms. So these are the four resistors. Most of the times in analysis, we may express them as resistors or conductances for the sake of simplicity. It depends on our problem. Fine. Apart from these four resistors, we have two capacitors. In simple terms, this CB prime C is the capacitance of reverse biased collector junction, collector base junction. Usually it will be very small, few picofarads to 100 picofarads. And then this resistor CB prime E will be capacitance of forward biased emitter base junction. Its value will be some nanofarads to few picofarads. So it will be usually high. This capacitance will be high compared to CB prime C. This CB prime is usually high compared to CB prime C. Now we have one more. It's not a parameter. There is a dependent current source given by GMVB prime E. So essentially, this says the output current of transistor depends on input voltage. We always speak transistor is a current controlled current device, which means so many relations are derived like that. Output current IC depends on input current IB or IE, like that. So that means we expect a current source whose value should be depending on input current. But in this model, it was shown GMVB prime E, which sometimes we may be mistaken transistor as voltage control current device. It's not like that. It's a current control current device. After suitable arrangements, we can replace this with beta times IB. Both are same. This is a current control current device, even though there is a voltage term appearing here. It's not a big problem. Okay, it can be after some manipulations, you can express that as HFE or beta times IB. Fine. These are the parameters of hybrid pi model. Please, you must remember this forever. At least okay, at least for until you finish your exams. This is a basic question. Most of the times you may be asked about you have to write you have to draw this model, as well as you have to write what is the significance of all these parameters. So this is one thing we need to be familiar with. Then sometimes you may be asked the relations between low frequency H parameters, hybrid pi resistances. Low frequency H parameters, we have HI, HR, HF, H0. Okay. Since we are doing this for common emitter HFE, HRE, HIE, HOE. So you can find the relation between this GM transconductance. You can express this GM in terms of H prime, GB prime E, or RB prime E, RB prime C, RB B prime. This is base spreading resistance in terms of H parameters. So while doing this, since H parameters are low frequency parameters, we have to remove those inter-electrode capacitances from our model. Then we start working like what we did in two-port analysis. We have to apply two-port analysis. Once you do that, you will find you can express GM as magnitude of IC divided by VT. You know, VT is a volt equivalent of temperature. Usually it will be 26 milliamperes at room temperature. Then this RB prime E can be written as HFE divided by GM. Oh, you know what is this HFE? We have done this already in first semester. Then GB prime C or RB prime C can be inverse of this. Okay, RB prime C is resistance and this is conductance. And HRE, of course, you know what is HRE. Then base spreading resistance, usually this could be, so many times we take it as zero, short circuit. But anyhow, the relation between RB prime E, RBB prime is HIE minus RB prime E. Usually RB prime E is around 1 kilo ohm. We know the standard for some one transistor, the standard value of HIE is 1. We always use that as standard value. Fine. Then this is the expression for output conductance. So you can find all these things in your notebooks. You must work with it for your exam. This is another important question. Now the third one is okay. Anyhow, you should be familiar with this also. How these parameters varies with various transistor operating conditions. Means what happens when temperature increasing, what happens to all these hybrid pi parameters, like what is the GM, what is the expression for GM? IC by VT. What is VT? T divided by 11,600. So obviously it will be inversely related. So what will happen when T increases, GM will be decreasing. So in the previous slide we have these relations. From these relations you can find all these variations. What happens when IC increases, GM increases. GM is independent of VCE, output voltage, output biasing conditions, and these are the relations. You can find this also in your notes. You can find them. You can find this in your notebooks. Okay, fine. Then another important question is we need to work with this. The CE short circuit current gain. What we need to do is, to do this, you need to short circuit load terminals, or keep RC. Essentially RC is load here. Keep RC equals to 0. This is basic transistor. Of course, this transistor has no biasing resistors. For the sake of simplicity, we have not included biasing resistors. Fine, leave it. Now coming back to this, this is the H parameter equivalent circuit. What do you have? RB prime, RB prime E, RB prime C, and all capacitors, this current source, RCE, etc., etc. Once load is 0, that means you need to connect short circuit between collector and emitter. So after some simplifications, you will get this simplified diagram for this equivalent circuit. And upon working, you know what is current gain? You can't find voltage gain because load terminals are short circuited. You can't go find a voltage gain. You can only go for current gain. The current gain is defined as IL by II, output current divided by input current. Since there are capacitance terms, obviously the gain becomes function of frequency. So this is the finally this is the expression for current gain. A is equal to in simple terms, you can write this as minus HFE divided by 1 plus J times F. This F is operating frequency. You know what is operating frequency? It is the frequency of input signal divided by F beta. Basically, the F beta equals to, from the previous expression, you can write F beta as 1 by 2 pi RB prime is CEC plus CE. This F beta is considered as bandwidth of the transistor under CE mode with load terminals are short circuited. So this is how we get frequency response when operating frequency changes. At low frequencies and at mid frequencies, the gain is equals to minus HFE. You can find that from previous slide, or you can find that from your notebooks. Fine. And F beta is bandwidth. So once we are reaching high frequency side, because of those inter-electrode capacitances, the gain starts decreasing as F increases beyond F beta. At F equals to F beta, the gain becomes 1 by root 2 times of its maximum value. What is maximum value? If you look at magnitude, maximum value is given by HFE. So the gain is given by HFE by root 2. Apart from F beta, we are doing this analysis for this parameter Ft. T cutoff frequency. The T cutoff frequency has a lot of significance. The transistor with large Ft is always giving high gains. This is considered as figure of merit for any transistor, Ft. It is also known as unity cutoff frequency. It is the frequency where the gain of the amplifier becomes unity with load terminals are short circuited. Means output equals to input, output voltage equals to input voltage. So after some calculations, you can find Ft equals to HFE times F beta. So for this relation, we have done this analysis. This is a very, very, very important relation. So this is one thing. This is thought of it. Students must be aware of for your exams. Now we will extend our analysis by keeping load. Until now we have taken load equals to 0. And now you can go for voltage gain analysis or current gain analysis. So for this class, we have only taken voltage gain analysis. What I have done, I have kept an arbitrary load. Usually our load will be less than 5 kilo ohms. Practical, for all practical amplifiers, load will be less than 5 kilo ohms. You all know that. So these two R1, R2 are biasing resistors. Still in the model, hybrid pi model, we have not included R1, R2. Okay, you know what to do if we have R1, R2. Fine. Then this is the hybrid pi model with load in place. Now, in the previous problem, this is short circuited, the analysis becomes quite simple. Now there is a load here. That means these two capacitors, capacitor and resistor, if they are in this place only, the analysis becomes rigorous. It takes a lot of time. So what we need to do is we need to remove them, because this is input node, this is output node. In between input node and output node, you have these two parameters. So one can use, there is a popular theorem known as Miller's theorem. You have to use Miller's theorem to remove them in between input node and output node. You are also familiar with Miller's theorem. I hope you people are familiar with Miller's theorem. There are two types of Miller's theorems: Miller's theorem and corollary of Miller's theorem. Now we have to use only Miller's theorem, since these two are placed in between input node and output node. After some simplifications, you are going to get this equivalent circuit, and you need to look at input time constant, output time constant. Please refer your material, classroom material, how we arrive to this situation. But to know how we arrive to this situation, we understand? Fine. So this finally, I'm going to calculate, instead of voltage gain, I'm going to calculate current gain. Again, current gain is defined as IL by IA, and this can be written as minus HFE divided by 1 plus J times F, operating frequency divided by FH. FH is known as upper cutoff frequency, or again this is known as bandwidth. Okay, fine. Where FH is given by 2 pi RB prime E into C, or this C, capital C. Okay, C is the combination of CE plus whatever the Miller input capacitance you get parallel to CE. Okay, fine. So again, you have to be familiar with this topic also. Please work with this problem in analysis. This cannot take much time, hardly takes only 10 minutes time. Once you do this, you can reproduce it within, you can learn this within 10 minutes. Do you understand? Fine. Then at times we may need to, until now we have used only BJT. Apart from BJT, of course, BJT is preferred for amplifier applications. You need, we are all working with MOSFETs and etc. It should be better to know FET amplifiers also. And this is the CS amplifier equivalent model at high frequencies. The FET is connected in CS mode, and this is the equivalent model. There are three capacitances. One is CGS, that is the capacitance between gate and source. Other one is the CGD, that is the capacitance between gate and drain. And finally, you have drain to source capacitance. These two capacitances comes into picture at high frequency for FET, JFET. And this is already present in low frequency GMVGS. This is not a current control current device anyhow. This is the output side. You have a current source which is given by GMVGS. VGS is the gate to source voltage, and there is drain resistance. Drain resistance is the total resistance of the FET from source to drain, and given by RD. And now this RD is externally connected resistor to drain, so you can consider this as load. After working this problem, we have done this problem also in classrooms. After some calculations, after working with this, you can find the voltage gain, and this is the formula for voltage gain, and this is the formula for input admittance, and this is the formula for output admittance. By the way, while working with this problem also, you must be able to use Miller's theorem. Do you understand? So these are the 6 topics which are mostly required. Apart from these 6 topics, sometimes you may get other problems like voltage gain bandwidth product also. Right now I have not taken that problem. And apart from that, so many times you need to, every time part A may be an analytical question, part B may be a problem. Please work with all those illustrative examples, numerical examples in classroom, whatever you have in classroom notebook. Okay, most of the times B part you may get numerical example or numerical problem. You need to answer numerical problem. Okay, fine. So this is about those are the important things of what chapter 1, high frequency analysis of transistor. Now the second chapter is multi-stage amplifiers. Here we have to do a multi-stage analysis for both low frequency as well as high frequency. Most of the times we confine to low frequency analysis. At times we also go for high frequency analysis. There are so many topics. I have taken only those topics which appear frequently in exams. There are some other topics beyond this. Anyhow, the first topic is why we need to answer why cascading is required. There is extra. Okay, anyhow, this is reversed. We need to look at why cascading is required for amplifiers. Also, you need to look at types of coupling. Somewhere in the first slide, while we are talking about types of amplifiers, we have mentioned these types of coupling. Then what happens to overall voltage gain, or what happens to overall current gain in general when 2 or more identical stages are cascaded? You know what happens. Voltage gains and current gains are getting multiplied. Suppose if you have 2 or 3 amplifiers which are cascaded, if they are not identical, even though they are not identical, suppose first amplifier gain is A1, A2, A3, they will get multiplied. So this is second important topic. Then most of the times, frequently, this may also be asked in exams. What happens to bandwidth if n identical stages are cascaded? Okay, fine. And then we need to know the principles of cascade amplifier as well as high input resistance amplifiers like CC amplifier as well as Darlington CC amplifier. Then You should know what is the biasing problem, what happens because of this problem, what will happen because of this problem, then how this causes some kind of reduction, not some kind of, there is a serious reduction in input resistance of Darlington CC amplifier or CC amplifier because of this biasing network. Sometimes we need amplifiers with high input resistance. Then we have to overcome this problem. For this, we go for a technique known as bootstrapping, and you need to explain how bootstrapping is done in terms of emitter follower as well as for Darlington CC amplifier. Then what is a differential amplifier and what is the importance of CMRR. Okay, fine, you must be familiar with this also. And then you need to analyze. Sometimes you may be given an exam CE combination, to CE amplifiers are cascaded. You may be asked to calculate those amplifier parameters like current gain, voltage gain, input resistance, output resistance, and this can be done for CE-CC as well as for CC-CE. This is a truly analytical problem. Okay, sometimes general version is given, or sometimes numerical version may be given. Fine. These are the important topics in multi-stage amplifiers. Apart from these, you please work with those numerical examples we have solved in a classroom. Fine. Now, why we need cascading? Occasionally, single amplifier may not give enough gain. So, in that case, what we do? We go for there is a certain limit for each amplifier. It cannot give gain beyond that limit. So still we need, if you need more gain, we go for cascading. What is cascading? Output of one amplifier is given as input to another amplifier, etc., in order to get more gain. This is the basic idea of multi-stage amplifiers. Apart from this, sometimes I need an amplifier with huge voltage gain, fine, as well as high input resistance as well as high output resistance. This is my application. I have a situation where I need an amplifier with large gain as well as large input impedance, a large output impedance. You all know no single amplifier satisfy all these requirements. In that case, what we do? We go for cascading. For example, I need a high input resistance amplifier with large voltage gain. In general, C gives voltage gain, high voltage gain, but input resistance is not that large. Though what we do is, we're going to keep a CC in front of C. The CC has a voltage gain equal to unity. It will not amplify. You can't get voltage amplification using CC. But input resistance is high. So what happens when I keep this, when I feed CE from CC, what will happen? I get high input resistance as well as my voltage amplification is already achieved in C. So there could be occasions where if you want to alter input and output resistance for a given amplifier, then also we can go for multi-stage or cascading. Do you understand? This is about need for cascading. And then this is a simple thing. Suppose there are two stages with gains G1 and G2. What will happen? Overall gain G represents overall voltage gain. What happens to G? G equals to G1 and G2. It may be power gain or it may be voltage gain, whatever it is. So we have done this in classroom. Please follow this. Please read this once again. Now, how a signal from one amplifier output is given to another amplifier input, which is known as coupling. Coupling is very, very important because suppose in this slide you have two CE amplifiers cascaded. Now what happens? The output resistance of, in general, the output resistance is around 50 kilo ohms for CE, whereas input resistance is around 1 kilo ohm for CE. That means I'm passing my signal from 50 kilo ohm point to 1 kilo ohm point. If I directly, I can do it. I can directly send my signal, or I can use some kind of coupling. In this case, I have used a capacitive coupling. This is popularly known as RC coupling. Anyhow, my problem is I can use this RC coupling. My problem is I am giving signal from, I'm passing signal from 50 kilo ohm to 1 kilo ohm. You all know from basic your networks knowledge, impedance matching is essentially when you pass a signal from one point to another point, if those 2 points are identical in resistance or impedance, you will get maximum power transfer from one point to other point. This is we have studied in maximum. That's what maximum power transfer theorem says. So anyhow, the CE has 50 kilo ohms. The CE as output resistance. The CE as 1 kilo ohm as input resistance. So with RC coupling, my problem is I may lose signal, some part of signal here because of impedance mismatch. In order to provide impedance matching, sometimes instead of RC coupling, you can go for transformer coupling, where I can keep a transformer here, I can keep primary here, secondary here. I'm going to buy some kind of transformer where impedance can be reduced, secondary impedance can be reduced, that secondary impedance can be increased. I can keep some kind of impedance matching, then I can pass my signal. So transformer coupling essentially is useful for impedance matching. It means sometimes you may assume always it's better to go for transformer coupling. Not at all. It has a problem. Transformer coupling has a problem, serious problem. The serious problem is you never get flat frequency response using transformer coupling. Means the gain will not be constant at various frequencies. You get some kind of resonant response. Means you get a maximum gain at some particular frequency. After that, gain starts reducing. You never get flat response. That's the serious problem. Still, at times in some applications you can go for transformer coupling when we need impedance matching is essential. When we feel impedance matching essential, then only we go for transformer coupling. Otherwise, we don't prefer this. We go for RC coupling. There is one more method which is known as direct coupling. Direct coupling means we don't keep any capacitor here, rather we keep a short circuit here, which is known as direct coupling. The advantage is it improves low frequency response. In general, RC coupling at low frequencies, the gain is less at low frequencies. As frequency increases, gain starts increasing. You might have, if you can remember that frequency response, at low frequencies, gain keep on increasing as frequency increases. Do you understand? So suppose I have an application where low frequencies are to be amplified. In that case, I can go for direct coupling. But there is a problem with direct coupling. The DC current of first amplifier enters into second amplifier. It may be amplified. DC amplification may also take place. The advantage of direct coupling is low frequencies can be better amplified. The disadvantage is the second amplifier DC conditions may get affected by first amplifier DC conditions. Do you know what is the meaning of DC conditions? Biasing. This usually we select for the simple C amplifier, we bias such that it operates in active mode. Because of this direct coupling, the low operating point may be changed. Okay, fine. So these are the 3 types of couplings we may use while we cascade amplifiers. Okay, fine. Now here already we have seen the example of RC coupling. This is the example of what? Direct coupling. This is how direct coupling is performed. 2 C amplifiers are cascaded like this, and this is what we call as transformer coupling. Don't go for transformer coupling for it is costly. Transformer itself is costly. In general applications, don't go for transformer coupling. Costly, bulky, the circuit becomes bigger, and the important thing is the frequency response is not flat. Okay, for some specific applications, we go for transformer coupling. Are you getting my voice? I got some kind of disturbance. Are you getting my voice? Srinivas?
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Yes, sir.
Fine. Now, let's look at the analysis problem of CE cascade amplifier, where 2 CE amplifiers are cascaded, are connected like this. The purpose is to increase either voltage gain or power gain. Fine. You may be asked to analyze this scenario. In the analysis, you need to find out overall voltage gain, overall current gain, overall input resistance, overall output resistance. So you have to follow certain procedure. In the problem, please while doing problems, please observe whether you are given with R1 R2. If R1 R2 are not mentioned, please remove them. That means for the time being, for the sake of simplicity, we are not using biasing network. So you have to assume that. We cannot find. Anyhow, to analyze this is the stage one or input stage, first amplifier. This is second amplifier. You may be given one more amplifier first stage. Also, maximum in exams you may not get beyond 2 amplifiers. Okay, sometimes you may be asked to find overall voltage gain, overall current gain when 3 amplifiers are connected in cascade like this. Okay, fine. Anyhow, let's look how this is done, how the analysis is done. I have not given entire procedure. You can find it in notebooks. Fine. Now, whatever load connected to last stage, whatever resistor connected in to last stage, it can be considered as overall load, or this will be load for second stage. While doing analysis, first of all, please better you start drawing AC equivalents. AC equivalents, once you are familiar with AC equivalent circuits, there is less chance for doing any mistake. You can easily identify where to place this R1, you can easily identify where to place this R2, and you can find the location of RC1, where to connect RC1. So while drawing AC equivalent, most of the times you may be asked to do this for you may be asked low frequency. We go for low frequency analysis. At low frequencies and at mid frequencies, always we assume we have to choose these capacitors as large as possible. When input signal is applied, you can assume this as a short circuit. So therefore, all these external capacitors can be assumed as short circuits. This must be first thing you have to observe. And moreover, while drawing AC equivalent, what is the purpose of BCC? The BCC is to provide required bias. The biasing is not at amplification stage. First, we have to bias the transistors, then we go for amplification. So during the bias, essentially, working with biasing is nothing but a DC analysis. Right now we are doing AC analysis, amplification analysis. So therefore, you have to make it zero. How to make it zero? You have to connect this to ground. So you have to directly connect this to ground. And then you have to replace, you have to identify the locations of R1, R2, RC1, RE1, etc., etc. This will be RE1 will be gone because of this emitter bypass capacitor, and this will become short circuited. This will become short circuited. If you don't have these two emitter bypass capacitors, again the problem becomes a bit more lengthier. That's the problem. CE with RE, CE with R. There are two CE with RE problems. The cascaded. Okay, fine. Now, fine. After drawing AC equivalent, this is AC. I have not given AC equivalent here. After drawing AC equivalent circuit, you have to replace each transistor with its H parameter model or hybrid pi model. Please be careful while doing this. If analysis has to be done at low frequencies, go for H parameter model. If analysis is asked particularly for high frequencies, then instead of H parameter model, you have to draw hybrid pi model here. You know what is hybrid pi model? Okay, already we have discussed the hybrid pi model in first chapter. Fortunately, most of the times in our course, most of the problems are confined to low frequency analysis. So this is the H parameter equivalent model for second stage. Let's see what we have. HIE and this voltage source, this current source, HOE. This is the equivalent circuit corresponding to transistor at low frequencies. Then you have this load. What is load here? RC2. RC2 is the load for this entire combination, or this is the load for second stage, and this is overall output. And now this is C1. C1 is the collector of first transistor. C2 is the collector of second transistor. So once you draw AC equivalent, you can find these two emitters are connected to ground. So emitter 1, emitter 2 are identical. they are connected to same point, not identical, they are connected to same point. Fine. Then here ends our equivalent circuit for transistor 2. Now at the input of stage 2, you have these two biasing resistors R1, R2. They, once you draw AC equivalent, this is connected to ground. You can find these two are have to be placed in parallel. This is R1, R2. Once you look in between these two terminals, B2 and E2, you can find input resistance of second stage. Or if you do same thing from here, that is called as effective input resistance of second stage. We usually call it as Ri2. This is called as Ri2 prime. Now here ends the equivalent circuit for second stage. Now you have to draw equivalent circuit for first stage. Again, what is load for first stage? Physical external load for first stage is RC1, like in RC2. Okay, I have keep it here. Then look at this H parameter equivalent model, HOE, and etc. All these things. Like R1, R2, you have biasing network for first stage also. We have to keep R1, R2 parallelly here. Then this resistance is the input resistance of, when you look between B1 and E1, you will find some resistance which is known as input resistance of stage 1, which is known as Ri1. Now if you find same thing from this point, which is known as Ri1 prime, effective input resistance. Now this is the total picture. Now you may be asked to find overall current gain, you may be asked to find overall voltage gain, overall input resistance, overall output resistance. What is overall output resistance? For this entire combination, this is where I apply my input signal. So therefore, once you look in between these two terminals, you find that resistance which is known as overall input resistance. That is nothing but Ri1 or Ri1 prime. In this case, Ri1, though this is the input resistance of stage 1, this becomes overall input resistance also. Similarly, this is the overall effective input resistance of entire the two for entire combination. Okay, now fine. Similarly, overall output resistance is, you can find from this point. This is the overall output resistance. Now you, while working with this problem, you have to remember those 4 formulas which we have derived in low frequency small signal analysis. You know what is formula for A? Minus HF divided by 1 plus HO into RL. All those formulas must be kept in mind. While this is already done in first semester, purposefully we have also discussed the same thing in starting off this course as a prerequisite. Remember all those 4 formulas: expression for A, expression for Ri, expression for AB, expression for R0. You must remember them. Then while finding all these parameters, you must start from second stage and you have to move towards first stage. Directly you cannot calculate AI1, rather you have to calculate AI for second stage, then perhaps you can move to first stage. The 3 parameters, current gain, input resistance, voltage gain, have to be calculated only for second stage first, then you have to move to first stage. Whereas while calculating output resistance, the analysis must start from first stage. First you have to calculate output resistance for stage 1, then you have to find output resistance for stage 2. First 3 parameters have to be calculated from right to left fashion, means last stage to first stage, whereas output resistance have to be calculated. You have to calculate output resistance for first stage at first, then you have to find output resistance for. So this is because loading problem. For example, what is the load for first stage? Externally there is load for first stage is RC1, but this is being loaded by the effect of what? Second stage. Physically this is the load, but this is not the effective load. What is the effective load? You can find this. The RL1 is the load for first stage. Now this Ri2, the input resistance, will also come parallel to this. That means stage 1 is loaded by stage 2. So therefore the effective load for stage 1 is RL1 parallel to Ri2 or Ri2 prime. If you don't know Ri2, it is not possible to find parameters of, it is not possible to find the effective load of stage 1. Hence, you cannot find, you can't analyze first stage. Therefore, you have to finish analysis of stage 2, then you have to come to stage 1 analysis. Please keep this fact in mind. First find AI2, Ri2, AV2, then find AI1, Ri1, AV1, then do multiplications. What is overall voltage gain? AV1 into AV2, of course. Then find R01. After finding R01, while finding R0, you need source resistance. The source is connected to only first stage. The source is not connected to second stage. That means you may presume, you may think that the second source resistance for second stage is 0. It's not like that. But whatever the output resistance of first stage, the signal is coming from this point. Therefore, this point will act as source to second stage. Even though physically source is connected to first stage, the source is coming for second stage. The source is coming from stage 1. So therefore, whatever resistance you have at this point will be source resistance for second stage. That's the reason why we always do find R01 first, then you need to find out R0. Do you understand? So what is the source resistance for stage 2? Simply R01. Once you know R01, you can find R02. R02 is the overall voltage. This is how one can perform analysis of multi-stage amplifiers. This is most of the times you may get at least this problem at least in one of the sets. You have to work with this. Then in a similar way, you may be asked to perform CE/CC analysis. What are the characteristics of CC amplifier in terms of input and output resistances? CC gives high input resistance, low output resistance, very low. The output resistance is in the order of ohms, few tens of ohms. Am I correct? I hope so. Now I have an application where I need an amplifier with low output resistance. The voltage gain, I need voltage gain as well as low output resistance. The CE gives me, I have no problem with input resistance. It can be any value. I'm not bothering about input resistance. My application needs an amplifier with high gain as well as with low output resistance. And in that case, you can go for what? CE/CC combination. CC does not give you any voltage amplification. Rather, output resistance will be less. Do you understand? This analysis can also be done like in previous problem. Meanwhile, I must say something. At times, one can go for exact analysis, one can go for approximate analysis. When approximate analysis can be performed, in simple terms, as long as load resistance is less than 4 kilo ohms, you cannot approximate analysis. Approximate analysis is rather simple when compared to exact analysis. You can remove this one, you can remove this one. The formulas becomes very simple. Analysis, the circuit becomes simple. The entire clumsiness is removed. It looks a bit of clumsy circuit. When you go for approximate analysis, the analysis becomes very, very simple. But you can't always go for approximate analysis. You have to test a condition. What is the condition? You all know the condition. HOE times RL must be less than or equal to 0.1 to perform approximate analysis. In other words, as long as load resistance is less than, for a standard case, let us say, as long as RL is less than 4 kilo ohms, you can go for approximate. Suppose for my problem, I'm working with this problem. My load is 3 kilo ohms. Straight away, I can apply approximate analysis for second stage. What is current gain for CE for approximate case? Minus HF. Simple. Formula is very simple. You can remember them. Okay, and RI is HIE, etc. Once you perform approximate analysis for stage 2, please be careful once again. Stage 2 approximate analysis perform చేసినంత మాత్రాన you can't go for approximate analysis of stage 1. Again, you need to check this load condition. What is Ri2 for stage 2? Simply 1 kilo ohm. Suppose here I have connected 10 kilo ohm. So what is the effective load for stage 1? 10 kilo ohm parallel to 1 kilo ohm, definitely it will be less than 1 kilo ohm. As long as this effective load is less than 4 kilo ohms only, I can go for approximate analysis. That means in this case 4 kilo ohm, say 3 kilo ohm, in this case 3 kilo ohm, enough. I can go for approximate analysis for both stages. Before doing approximate analysis rather simplifies everything. It's a very simple, it becomes the analysis becomes simple, but you must check these conditions always. Straight away you cannot go for approximate analysis. Yes, for CC amplifier also you can do approximate analysis by looking at this load RE. If this is less than 4 kilo ohm, go for approximate analysis and go for approximate analysis. We can find this is CE-CC combination, and you must be familiar with CE-CC combination also. At least you must know how to perform analysis for CE-CC combination. Then we have one more popular multi-stage, two-stage amplifier, which is known as cascade amplifier. Essentially, this is used in voltage stabilizers. In our courses, nowhere in electronics course you find this application. For at least my time also, I don't find this application. But we always study about cascade amplifier. We never study about voltage stabilizers. Previously, voltage stabilizers course was somewhere in between, before 90s. This you will find this course, but right now this is removed from because there will be no more advancements. This is removed from usual core subject courses. So the cascade amplifier find application in voltage stabilizer. What is a cascade amplifier? First stage is CE, last stage is CB, second stage is CB. Simple. CE-CB combination is called as cascade amplifier. Why it is preferred? What are its characteristics? It gives you high input resistance. Strange. Even the first stage is C, you get input resistance greater than C input resistance, as well as it also gives you high. It's not okay, fine. It's not, sorry, it's not like that. C is usually C input resistance is large, moderate, not large, moderate. At least it comes around 1 kilo ohm or so. Once CE is followed by CB, CB has high output resistance. So I got high input resistance, I got high output resistance, as well as the very important thing is this combination gives me large bandwidth. Usually, though it is not discussed until now, usually cascading reduces bandwidth. This is what general field. Cascading reduces bandwidth. This particular type of cascading increases bandwidth. You get bandwidth more than single CE stage in cascade amplifier. Now the analysis is same. Okay, fine. The signal first stage is C. The signal, this is the first stage where the source is connected. It's a CE amplifier. The signal output of CE is given to emitter of stage 2. What is common base input terminal? Common terminal is base. Emitter is input terminal. So this is how feeding is done. This output signal is given to input of second stage. So therefore, this is CE and this is CB. Do you understand? Now, then you have to go for AC equivalent. This is the AC equivalent circuit. Then you have to perform. Please refer A section class notes for this analysis. This is a popular question. Most of the times you may get this question in your exams, and this is okay. You have to find again. You have to find once you draw this, everything is simple. This is CE, and this is CB. Second stage, this is CE. Analysis you have to start from second stage to first stage. You have to find AI2, RI2, AV2, AI1, RI1, AV1. Then you have to find RI1. You have to find R01, and you have to find R0. So what are the characteristics? It has moderate input resistance, high output resistance, and with large, it provides us large bandwidth. Okay, it finds application in voltage stabilizers. Please do this. Don't please be familiar with this one. Then there is something called Darlington CC transistor. You can build this in laboratory, or you can buy Darlington CC transistor from market also, from shops also. Why we need this? In general, the CC amplifier gives large input resistance. there are so many applications where we need high input resistance, large input resistance. There are so many applications. The CC at the max, it can give us input resistance up to 400 kilo ohms. The CC amplifier gives us maximum input resistance up to 400 kilo ohms. Suppose I need input resistance beyond that, CC can't give. In simple terms, if load is large, input resistance is large for CC amplifier. It comes around in simplified formula 1 plus HFE times load resistance. If load is increased, input resistance is increased. But you can't increase loads beyond a certain limit. So that means at the maximum I can get up to 400 kilo ohms to 500 kilo ohms in case of CC amplifier. The input resistance will be around 400 kilo ohms to 500. That's the upper limit. You can't get, even it is not possible to get that much value also, but at times you can get that, you can go up to 400 kilo ohms. That's the upper limit. Now my problem is I need an amplifier whose, truly I need an amplifier whose input resistance is in order of mega ohms. CC can't give you. CC is no more solution for this case. Then what we do is I'm going to cascade two CC amplifiers. This combination is known as Darlington CC amplifier. The purpose is to increase input resistance in the up to mega ohms. Up to mega ohms. How this is done? Usually, the output terminal for CC is emitter. Load is connected in between emitter and collector. Okay, if you draw AC equivalent, you can observe that. The second stage is loaded. We will not connect any load for first stage. We keep open this emitter terminal. Means the load for first stage is infinity. So how to build Darlington CC transistor at Darlington CC amplifier? Simple. Two CC amplifiers are cascaded with first stage load resistance of infinity. The load resistance to first stage is infinity. Don't connect anything here. Now the output of first stage is given to input to second stage. This is also emitter. This is also emitter. Now let's see what will happen. We have performed this analysis in classroom. We have calculated voltage gain, we have calculated current gain, etc., etc. And more importantly, we have calculated RI for Darlington CC amplifier. Once again, I am reiterating the purpose of Darlington CC amplifier is to increase input resistance beyond what a simple CC amplifier can provide in the order of mega ohms. Now, this is current gain for single stage CC amplifier. A maximum we can get up to 1 plus HFE, and this is the input resistance. I have taken some arbitrary value, RE 3 kilo ohms. I get like this. Fine. Whereas, once you cascade two CC transistors, let us see what will happen. RI becomes this much. It is getting multiplied 1 plus HFE square. You get only 1 plus HFE here. Of course, there is a denominator. It does not give. It won't affect much. Anyhow, 1 plus HFE square RE. So it comes for the same problem. It can, where we got 168 kilo ohms. Here we got 1650 kilo ohms. It is almost increased by 10 times. As well as the current gain. CC amplifier has voltage gain nearly unity, slightly less than unity. There won't be much reduction in voltage gain. Almost after cascading also, if we cascade CC amplifiers, the voltage gain certainly is equal to 1 if you go for a number of stages. But current gain is also increased by factor 10. For single CC, it is around 51. For two Darlington CC, this is the formula, and you get around 500. Please perform this analysis. This is very, very important. This is the one practical application of cascading, where I have increased input resistance by beyond this single stage input resistance. This is very, very important problem. So there are basically two circuits, two amplifier circuits we used for high input resistance. One is CC, second one is Darlington CC. While doing this, or simple CC amplifier analysis or Darlington CC amplifier analysis, we have not considered biasing network. Basically, biasing network keeps amplifier in active mode. Usually we use voltage divided biasing network where we keep R1, R2 at input side. Now assume this amplifier, in this amplifier analysis, I have not taken that biasing network R1, R2. You get R1 here, you get R2 here. Now, what is the input resistance here? It comes around, say, for example, 1.65 mega ohms. But my source is connected here. For end user, these are the terminals where I keep. I don't look at this point. I look at this point. Now here, the input resistance is 1.65 ohms. What is the input resistance here? 1.65 mega ohms comes in parallel with R1 and R2 combination. So what will happen? R1 R2 combination, essentially you may get up to 30 kilo ohms. So therefore, effective input resistance is 30 kilo ohms parallel to 1.65 mega ohms. Or for CC also there is same problem. Because of this biasing network, what happens? Input resistance will be reduced drastically. My purpose is not fulfilled. Without biasing network, you can't build proper amplifier. It cannot be put into active region. Biasing network is necessary. On the other hand, the presence of biasing network reduces input resistance drastically, which should not be happened. I don't like this situation. What to do? This particular problem is known as a biasing problem. What is biasing problem? A reduction in input resistance because of biasing network. So to overcome this problem, we use a technique known as bootstrapping. Bootstrapping. Bootstrapping, okay, let's leave why the name bootstrapping. Let's look at this technique. Now this is a simple single CC amplifier. It's not a Darlington CC amplifier. How bootstrapping eliminates the biasing? Let's look at how bootstrapping eliminates the biasing problem. Do you understand? Okay, na? So what we have done is, usually we keep R1, R2 directly connected to this base terminal. In bootstrap technique, we don't do that. We do it in different manner. Forget about R3, forget about C for the time being. This is a general simple CC amplifier where we will get the effect of what? Biasing problem because of presence of R1, R2. Well, the changes are like this. We keep a large capacitor in between output node and a node in between R1, R2. This R1, R2 node has no direct link with base, rather it has a different link. So we have to keep a large capacitor in between output node and the node between R1 and R2. It must be large. It must be quite large so that when signal is applied, this should act as short circuit. Once capacitance value is large, you know what is reactance 1 by 2 pi f into C. So if C is large, the reactance will be small. That means it will act as short circuit even at low frequencies. This must be large. We understand. Then we have to take a resistor R3. You have to take this resistor R3 connected between base and this node. Connected between base and this node. This must be a large resistor. Now let us see what will happen under DC conditions. Under DC conditions, this is essentially opened. This is essentially opened. Okay. Now these two comes parallel. So overall resistance will be something around R2. So therefore, normal biasing can be achieved. You can you can drive this transistor into active region. You can do whatever it is, but the connection is slightly different. Please, okay. Anyhow, you can achieve normal biasing. This can be driven into active mode. Now let us see what happens when AC signal is applied. Straight away, this is short circuited. I am not bothered about this. This is also short circuited. Now, what is the location? So when signal is applied, my problem, I should not have R1 R2 here. When under amplification, because R1 R2, if they are presenting at input side, they have effect on input resistance. They will reduce in turn, they will reduce input resistance. So what to do? So when a signal is applied, essentially what happens? This will be short circuited. Now let's look at what is the location of R1. This is also grounded. When AC signal, while doing AC analysis, so R1 will be in between this output node and ground. So for bayride, it looks like R1 R2 are input side, but when input signal is applied, this R1 and R2 will go to output side. Then we need to, whereas this R3, where is this R3? Input node as well as output node. So there is a resistor, it acts like a feedback resistor. It has to be, so while working with this, you need to apply Miller's theorem to decompose this into input component and output component. The output component is given by RM2. This itself is large, and RM2 is almost equal to R3. So what will happen? R1, R2 comes to output side. R1, R2 comes to output side along with RM, and also you have RE. So when signal is applied, R1, R2 will not affect input side. Whereas input side, you will have Ri parallel with this large distance Rm1. What is Rm1? Miller equivalent of R3. So it would also be quite large. It almost acts like a open circuit, because if you apply Miller's theorem, you get 1 by 1 minus AB, 1 minus AB, AB for CC amplifier approximately 1, 1 minus 1 becomes nearly 0 or almost equal to 0. This becomes almost open circuited. So what happens to input resistance? Ri parallel to a large value. Even though this is 10 kilo ohms, this becomes quite large. This becomes what? Quite large. Why quite large? 10 divided by 1 minus 1, it becomes infinity, almost infinity. So therefore, effective input resistance will be same as Ri. So thus, by applying bootstrapping, what happens? There won't be a reduction in input resistance. Bootstrapping is applied for either CC amplifier or Darlington CC amplifiers. Without bootstrapping, they suffer a drop in input resistance due to a significant drop in input resistance, quite significant drop in input resistance due to biasing network. So you please work with this also. Okay. Finally, there is one more important topic: differential amplifier. At least for my section, I have not done this. Please check other section class notes. Differential amplifier, in simple terms, differential amplifier amplifiers. The output of differential amplifier is, in general, it has to be done like this: V1 out minus V2 out. Overall, it becomes the overall output of differential amplifier becomes V1 minus V2 times gain. In general, for an amplifier, what is the output? Gain into input. Here, what is V1? Input of first. The two amplifiers are connected like this. V1 is the okay. There is a common Re. Of course, you need to use this. The simple. There could be various versions. This is one version where you have to use two supply voltages plus VCC and minus VE, and then you have to apply signals here. This is V1. V2, the overall output is given by A times V1 minus V2. So what is happening here? It is amplifying difference of these two inputs. So this gain is called as differential gain. So output is gain times difference between input and output. You can find, you can obtain this easily. Refer any material, online material, or you can find this from classroom notebook. So differential amplifier is a device that is used to amplify the difference in voltage of the two signals. It is very, very important. My integrated circuit flow, you will find this is one of the earliest block in integrated circuits. Like you can very soon you are going to third year where you study about op amp. This differential amplifier plays vital role in building op amps, operational amplifiers, integrated circuits. Okay, fine. Um, mm, Essentially, it is constructed using two transistors. Fine. Now, this gain is called as differential gain, since it is amplifying difference between two inputs. Fine. Now, one question. Suppose, assume this is identical stage. This is identical stage. Means RC1, RC2 are same. I have taken same transistors. Everything is same. Also assume I have applied identical inputs. That means V1 is same as V2. Now what could be output? Here is the scenario where I have applied same inputs. So what should be output? In principle, output should be V1 is same as V2, means this becomes 0. What is output? Output is going to be 0. Theoretically, output must be equals to 0. Do you understand? But always we may get some output, because though we assume both transistors are identical, in principle no two transistors are exactly identical. Because of this mismatch, you may get some output. I am trying to simplifying the things. Please listen. This is about differential gain. There is one more gain we define in terms of for a differential amplifier, which is known as common mode gain. What I have done, I have applied. Now let's look at common mode. What is the meaning of common mode gain? I have applied same input. In principle, I must get 0 output, but I may get, because of this mismatch, I may get at 100 microvolts or so small voltage, however small it may be, I may get output voltage. Now I'm going to find the ratio of output voltage divided by input voltage. That gain is called as common mode gain. Usually it is represented as AC. AC equals to V0 divided by, since both inputs are, what is differential gain? Differential gain is V0 divided by V1 minus V2. Whereas common mode gain is given by, if they are same, V0, or say for example 100 microvolts divided by V1 or V2, both are same. In principle, while building differential amplifiers, ideally one would expect common mode gain must be equals to 0. Ideally, I should not have, my amplifier should not give any output if V1 equals to V2, but still we are getting output. So therefore, certainly there would be some common mode gain. Theoretically, I need common mode gain, or ideally I need common mode gain. AC must be equals to 0. Practically it will not be 0. Therefore, for any differential amplifier, there is an important parameter known as common mode rejection ratio. This is very, very important parameter. What is common mode rejection ratio? I should not have this term. I should not get this term 0. I should get this term 0 ideally, but practically I'm getting however small it may be, maybe 1 or 2, whatever it is, or maybe less than 1. I'm getting AC. What is AC? Common mode gain. What is AD? Differential gain. I must have this. I should not have this. So what is CMMR? Common mode rejection. Sorry, there is a mistake. CMRR. This is a typing mistake. Please excuse me. CMR. This must be CMRR. Common mode rejection ratio given by AD divided by AC. Ideally, what should be the value of common mode rejection ratio? What do you expect? AC should be 0. For ideal differential amplifier, CMRR must be infinity. But practically, it would not be infinity. But we will always try to build differential amplifiers with large common mode rejection ratio. We understand. This is one more topic. You please perform analysis. In classroom analysis, you have to find what is the expression for AD, this gain, etc., etc. And there are various versions: balanced differential amplifiers, unbalanced. There are 4 versions actually. Anyhow, I'm not going into details. This is one more probable question. Fine. And finally, I have not included in my slides, one more topic is there. What is the effect of cascading and bandwidth? This is done in all in classrooms. You all know bandwidth will be reduced. Gain is increased and bandwidth will be reduced. What happens to lower cutoff frequency? If I use two amplifiers in cascade, the lower cutoff frequency will be less than single stage lower cutoff frequency. No, the lower cutoff frequency value will be increased, upper cutoff frequency value will be decreased after cascading. Overall, what will happen? The bandwidth will get reduced. And thus, that derivation is also important. You have to do that for identical stages, non-identical stages. There is a slight difference in formula. And also this one, I have not included in my slides. Anyhow, what is the effect of cascading on bandwidth, please? So at least at the minimum, you must be aware of all these 8 topics while doing at least for exams, end exams. Do you understand? So this is up to now. In next session, I go for chapters 3 and 4. Today I have taken only chapters 1 and 2, thinking that chapter 3 I may need more time. I don't know what is time. Almost 12:30. So that's why I have taken only 2 chapters. Okay, that's it now. Thank you very much. Shall I log out?
Okay, thank you, sir. Students,
Tagore, రికార్డింగ్ ఆఫ్ చేయి
ఆఫ్ చేయాలా కట్ చేయాలా?
ఆఫ్ చేసి